It's not about Atlanta, right? We are profiling markets. As a city or as a metro, Atlanta ranks very high. So first, what we do is we profile markets, and a lot of the people that are following me are actually using my methodology. So that methodology is called the Real Focus System, and it's free. No one has to ever pay anything for the Real Focus System. At last count, I think there's about 40,000 people using it. The Real Focus System is a white box. It's the opposite of a black box where you don't know what's happening. So it's a white box. It tells you exactly what it's doing. It's a system that has 5 rules for cities and 5 rules for neighborhoods. And the rules for city are Goldilocks zones for population growth, job growth, income growth, home price growth, and crime reduction. These are the 5 that through statistical analysis we found that matters the most. Oddly enough, schools were not in that list. So what we found was when we correlate investor profit to demographics, these are the big 5, right? With jobs having the highest weightage amongst those 5. And so what we did was we built a Goldilocks zone for each, because if you allow if you allow home price levels to go up too fast, you develop a bubble. And you don't want to go into a city when the bubble's already developed. You want to go in as it's developing, believe it or not. You don't want to go in too early either. So that's a common myth. So what we did was we built this Goldilocks system, and we put it together into 2 hours of training. And that training is offered at multifamilyu.com for free. It's completely free. There's actually no product, no pitch, no follow-up, no subscription. You come to multifamilyu.com each Jan and you get a new list of cities, right? And then you walk away. All we get is your email address. So we do get something out of it for it. So we built that system, and then we profiled every major city in the US. And believe it or not, the system clearly tells you that these superstar cities are absolutely shitty. So Los Angeles shows up really low. San Francisco shows up really low. Miami, in New York, they show up awful in some of these metrics. And most people don't understand that because they think of these as safety. But of the top 25 metros in the United States, we were only able to find one metro where home prices actually matched incomes. And that happened to be Atlanta, Georgia. In every other metro, home prices were significantly already above what incomes could afford, right? And at some point that indicates a slowdown. What this means is Atlanta has more headroom than other metros for income, for these differences to grow. In Boise, when you buy a single family home, it's 54% above what that price should be, looking at the people's incomes. In Atlanta, today, it's only 6% above the incomes. This means that Atlanta has a much bigger run than Boise does at this point in time. So when we look at that, so that's why we picked Atlanta as a metro, because as a metro, it has these phenomenal fundamentals. Now, when we go in and look at Atlanta, well, other people have figured this out, unfortunately, before us. So when we're looking at places like Buckhead, I mean, they make no sense whatsoever, right? It's just like, who the heck are these people that are throwing money into Buckhead? They have just no clue. They don't use any numbers, or they just, bought land from their brother-in-law and made their brother-in-law rich. I mean, that's probably the most likely scenario. And so we look at this, and we're like, when we're profiling individual cities, like Smyrna comes out 10 times better than Buckhead, right? Lithuania on the east side comes out better. On the lower side, we went Fayetteville. On the upper side, we went farther than Atlanta Metro to Dalton. So we're surrounding Atlanta. So far, we've done 3 directions. So I need to buy a property in the east of Atlanta so that I can, or I should say in the west of Atlanta, so I can kind of complete my siege of the city. But I find that those are much more profitable. I mean, it's just the mathematics of it makes a lot more sense. And you might say, why are people then buying inside of the city? If you ask them, they're going to say this, well, it's because they're closer to the jobs. And that, while that's reasonable, it's not reasonable in a metro like Atlanta, because you could still be close to a freeway in Atlanta in a place like Lithuania and still be 29 minutes from downtown at 9 a.m. in the morning, right? Who cares, it's not midnight, it's 9 a.m. in the morning, right? Fayetteville, you can work at the airport and you have a 19-minute commute to your apartment complex. So I think that some of those arguments are very hollow, right? It's almost feels like people have said this so many times that they start to believe them, right? And so early in the process, so I would say 2011 through 2015, it made sense to buy in central Atlanta. That's what I would be doing if I was there. I recognize today that I'm late. So the periphery is better for me. And I think it's better for almost everybody else, right? So Stone Mountain is another one that made a lot of sense in the last 2 or 3 years.